Okay, so this lesson is on conditional statements. What is a conditional statement? We're going to talk about that and then different variations of them. A conditional statement is simply a statement that can be written in if-then form. So a conditional statement, if-then form, can be written symbolically like this. So you can see the P and then an arrow with a Q. This is read if P, then Q. And each part has a different name. The first part that follows the P, or that is the P part, is the hypothesis. This follows the word if. And then the conclusion is your Q part, and this follows the word then. So for example, in this statement below here, it says, if you live in St. Paul, then you live in Minnesota. So this, if you live in St. Paul, so you live in St. Paul, that's your hypothesis. Then you live in Minnesota. That's your conclusion. So when we think about a Venn diagram, the smaller part, the P part, should be within the bigger part. So like you can see, this is within Minnesota. Okay, so you'll see lots of these now, so hopefully these will start to make sense. So we're going to write each of these in if-then form. This says an obtuse angle has a measure greater than 90 degrees. So we're going to write this in if-then form. So we would say then an obtuse angle has a measure greater than 90 degrees. So if an angle is obtuse, then the measure is greater than 90. So I wrote this. Here we go. If an angle is obtuse, then it has to have a measure greater than 90 degrees, and that makes sense. So there we go. And that is now in if-then form. Okay. A tarantula is a spider. Okay, so if it is a tarantula, then it has to be a spider. Then it is a spider. So that's an if-then statement. We just written a couple of conclusions or a couple of if-then statements. So conditional statements. So you can again see that this is smaller. This is the bigger part. So that's within that. Okay. All numbers are divisible by 4 are also divisible by 2. So how do we write that? Well, if a number is divisible by 4, then it is also divisible by 2. So here we go. If a number is divisible by 4, then it is also divisible by 2. So now we've just written all of those in if-then form. Okay. All right, now we can modify these a bit. So inverse, an inverse is formed by negating or using the word not, and you'll see this symbol, a squiggly, this not. Now, if it's already a not, it's already negated, then you would make it a positive version. So formed by negating the hypothesis and the conclusion. So you're going to negate the P and then negate the Q. And again, the squiggly in front of it means negation. Okay. Converse is formed by switching the hypothesis and the conclusion. So you just take P and Q and you switch them. So that's why you see Q first here. That's the converse. Okay. And then the contrapositive you form by negating both parts and then also switching them. So you can see here it says not Q and then not P. Okay. So how does this work? Let's take a look. We're going to try this. Okay, so again, inverse negation of both the hypothesis and the conclusion. So here's our statement. It says, if it is Saturday, then there is no school. Okay. So we're going to write the inverse, the converse, the contrapositive of that statement, and then determine if it's true or not. So now the inverse, we just negate both this part, and this part. So let's do it. If it is not Saturday, then, so now it says then there is no school. We want to change that to, we don't want no school. We want to change that then there is school. Okay, so if it's not Saturday, is there school? Well, that would be false because it could be Sunday and then Sunday wouldn't have no school. So that's false. Okay. Now the converse, whoops, let's erase this here. The converse, we just take these two and we flip them. Remember, we take P and Q and just reverse them. So if there is no school, then it is Saturday. Was that true or false? Well, if there's no school, then it's either Saturday or Sunday. So it's not always Saturday. It could also be Sunday, so that's false as well. Okay, and then contrapositive. If it is not Saturday, so we can just take this right here and flip them back and forth because we've already negated both. So if we take the inverse and flip them around. So if there is school, then it is not Saturday. Okay, so if there is school, then it's not Saturday. That's true. Okay, so that's what you want to do with those. Those are some variations. Let's try one more just to make sure that that makes sense. Okay. Let's see. Here, this one says, if the temperature is 25 degrees, then it is below freezing. Okay, so we're going to say inverse is to negate both the first part and the second part, the hypothesis and the conclusion. So if the temperature is not 25 degrees, then it is I guess below, so not below or above freezing, we could say. That would be the reverse. Above freezing. Okay, so is that true or not? So if the temperature is not 25 degrees, does it have to be above freezing? No, because it could be 22 degrees, and that's still not above freezing, so that's false. Okay. Let's try the next one. The converse, we take this, and we just flip them, right? So that's what we're going to do. All right, so if the temp is below freezing, then it is not 25 degrees. Okay, so well, if the temp is below freezing, it could still be 25 degrees, right? So that's false as well. Now, for us, both of these examples, we had false for both inverse and converse. That's just a coincidence. It could be true or false. Okay, one more. Finish it off here. Make sure it makes sense. Contrapositive, again, is flipping and negating. So we've already done the negation on this one. So we just want to flip that and then we'd have it. So that's the easiest way for me to think about it, at least. So I'm going to say if it, let's say, if the temperature, I guess we can't say it yet, if the temp is above freezing, then it is not 25 degrees. So that would be true, because if it's above freezing, then it can't be 25 degrees. Okay, so those are conditional statements and some modifications, excuse me, of conditional statements as well. So inverse, converse, and contrapositive. So then you can go ahead and start your assignment. Hope this all makes sense. Have a good one. See ya.